So I found myself pondering a question this week. How do you celebrate the birthday of a podcast? So we are a year old. And I don't know if I should be singing happy birthday to Speaker Dynamics on the Room or just saying happy anniversary. But I'm just going to go with saying thank you. Thank you to all of you who have listened, who have watched Speaker Dynamics on the Room. Certainly when we started this a little over a year ago, I had no idea how it would grow. But I think it is interesting to just take a look at some of the statistics that I received recently about just the reach of the show. So we are in the top 5% of podcasts globally, which is pretty cool. But what I think is even cooler is this next statistic where I found out that we have listeners in more than 48 countries across 6 continents. So we're talking from Australia to Argentina, from Switzerland to Sri Lanka. So I love the idea that this community is global in scope. We have over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which I think has been really interesting to watch because honestly, I didn't even know that people consume podcasts through video, but it's a huge way that people do consume this information. And in fact, we've had more than 17,000 views of some of our episodes, which is just mind blowing. So I almost let this moment pass. But marking milestones is important, both personally and professionally. So today I'm going to take a moment to reflect on some of my communication milestones that in the moment I might not have realized were indeed milestones and were incredibly important, but ended up leading me to where I am today. So my hope is that it'll make you think about your communication milestones and that you can celebrate them as well. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Karin Reed. I'm a 4-time author, Emmy award-winning broadcast journalist, and communication expert on helping people to own the room, whether it be a physical one or a virtual one. Welcome to Speaker Dynamics. For those of you who have been loyal listeners of this podcast, you know that I am definitely oriented as a teacher. I like to teach people new skills and empower them. And this episode is a little bit of a departure because it's talking about some of the things that made a big difference in my career. And I don't want it to come across as me just, stroking my own ego. That is not the goal of this. So I'm going to tell you some stories. And after I tell the story, I'm going to share with you the lesson that I learned from it as a result. And hopefully you'll be able to see some parallels in your own professional or personal journey thus far. So indulge me. Thank you so much for listening. And I want to start things off with my first major communication milestone, which happened at my second TV station I was working at. I was working as a general assignment reporter, and it was for an NBC affiliate. And my news director at the time said, "Hey, Karin, I have a new assignment for you, a new beat, and I want you to do something called Tuesday's Child." So Tuesday's Child is an amazing series where you go out with children who are waiting to find their forever family. And children who had been in the foster care system, the biological parents had their parental rights terminated, and these children are waiting for an adoptive home. So as the Tuesday's Child reporter, you are the person who goes out and just gives them like a really great day and basically puts them in an environment where they can have some fun and just, relate as people and basically, highlight that these amazing kids are waiting to be adopted. And the hope is there can be a family watching that says, wow, that really touches my heart. And this is someone who I could see, having a real connection with. So, and I will tell you, like the program actually has amazing success. I was given the privilege of being a part of many families that became whole as a result of this. But I will tell you, when I first began this assignment, I was not all that thrilled because at the time I was a young reporter and I thought I wanted to be just like the hard news investigative journalist. And this was such a departure. This was way too featurey, way too soft. Boy, was I wrong, because what I didn't realize is that I could have a tremendous impact on the lives of so many people by doing this Tuesday's Child reporter role. And it was by far the most gratifying thing that I've done in my broadcast career. And I appreciated that my news director tapped me to do it. So here's the other additional thing that happened as a result of it. So I had done this for a number of years, and then I asked if I could do a documentary about special needs adoption, which is what this is called in the child welfare world. I was given the go-ahead. I worked with an amazing photographer whose work is featured on all sorts of big time news magazine shows now, and we put this piece together on stories of people who had found their forever families through adoption, and the documentary won an Emmy. And that was my first Emmy award, and certainly was a major career milestone for me. So here's the lesson that I learned, and perhaps you might be able to relate it to your life as well. The value of an assignment might not be readily apparent at first, but it can be life-changing. Certainly being the Tuesday's Child reporter was life-changing for me. And perhaps you might be able to relate it to something in your world where you're like, I didn't think it was a big deal, but boy, it totally took me in a different direction and in a positive one. All right. So that was story number one. Thank you for listening. Okay. Story number two, my second communication milestone, was when I recognized that I could teach others to be confident on-camera communicators. So I have been talking like this through a camera for literally decades. I started very young. I started on TV in TV news when I was in college. Literally, I was a student during the week, and then on the weekends I was a reporter and actually a weather person, which is a whole other story. But I feel very comfortable talking through this medium. So after I left the TV news business, I went into video production where I was hired as the professional on-camera spokesperson. And more often, I saw that there was this trend where they were bringing in real people, not actors, as they would say in the little, type at the bottom of the commercial, real people, not actors. But I saw this happening over and over again. And they were bringing, people who were business folks who had no on-camera experience, but it was assumed that they could speak well through it. And that often did not go well. Often it was a real struggle for people to be able to converse through video, which makes sense. It requires a whole different skill set, right? So my big turning point was when I had a C-level executive from a company that I had been doing a lot of on-camera spokesperson work for a number of years, approached me and she said, Karin, I have to do these videos. I think I'm coming across really badly in them. Are you able to help me to do it better? And I remember I was actually at a conference for this client, and I was hosting all of their live coverage from their conference. And it was almost like a pretend news set where I would interview various people from the conference. And I was kind of like a news anchor for this client. And I was getting ready to leave. I was actually in the airport terminal waiting to board my plane. And I always carry with me, and literally I've done this my entire career. I always carry with me just this legal pad because it's how I'm wired. I know it feels very old fashioned, but I always use big legal pads because I like to have my stories kind of lined up on it. And I started mapping out this curriculum on how to help people to be better on camera. It became the MVPs of on-camera success, which if you've been listening to me, you probably know it. So the M is not it's not MVP, most valuable player. Rather, it's the mental mindset, vocal variety, and physical factors. And this became the cornerstone of the curriculum that I teach today. And this was a long time ago. And this was probably, 14 years ago. And this became a way that I helped the C-level executive to improve and to gain confidence. It broadened into small group workshops. And then, they told their friends about it in other companies. And then the workshops went elsewhere. And then, eventually it became a book, On Camera Coach, which was really the beginning of my career as an author. So, this is an interesting communication milestone for me because, just because something comes easy to you doesn't mean it comes easy to everyone. So, say that there is something that, oh yeah, everybody can do this well. That might not be the case. And that certainly was the case when it came to being able to speak well through a camera. And here's the thing, if you have a heart for helping others to, do well, and you know that there's something that you can do easily, but others may not necessarily be able to do easily, help them to do it better. Because what I found is that helping others find confidence in a new skill is incredibly gratifying. That is something that I never anticipated my career would move in that direction. But I'm so glad it did, because this actually brings me to my third communication milestone that certainly changed the trajectory of my career and probably the trajectory of yours as well. It certainly changed the way that you got business done. And that was, basically what happened in 2020. I became a 10-year overnight success when the skills that I've been teaching for years to mostly the executive leadership teams at various organizations, they became mission critical for everyone. So I had developed this curriculum to help business professionals be better on-camera communicators. But this was well before video became a critical communication pathway for almost everyone. So much of my time had been spent working with leaders to help them to be better on camera as well as off. So yes, on-camera communication was really how it started, but it quickly expanded into helping people to speak well across any platform, in person, on camera, or through virtual communication tools. But it was that last one that obviously became massive in our world. So I want to share with you what happened the first week of March 2020. I was working for a client as a subject matter expert in video communication. And there was another person who was working as a subject matter expert. His name is Dr. Joe Allen. You might see his names on the books behind me. So he is one of the world's foremost meeting scientists. So we were asked to do a webinar together talking about the future of meetings and, what that would look like. And we said, oh yeah, in 5 to 10 years, there are going to be so many meetings where they're going to be virtual and video will be at their core. So as mentioned, that was the first week of March 2020. And then all the things that we said would happen in 5 to 10 years happened like overnight. So that became the tip of the iceberg. There was this onslaught of business that came my way, where people were really struggling to get business done virtually and trying to figure out how to communicate in this way. And that was a blessing for sure. The business really expanded. And it also was a recognition that we could help people at scale learn how to get business done through a webcam. We could help them maintain or just build team cohesion, because that can suffer if you don't understand how to talk this way. We could help people, leaders especially create true connection with their dispersed teams and inspire them to do great things. And we could help salespeople land the deal whenever they're never in the same physical room, which was truly a struggle because most of the salespeople that I've worked with over the years feel most comfortable whenever they can shake somebody's hand, like actually shake their hand. And, this sort of environment did not allow for that. So here is the lesson that I learned as a result of this communication milestone. You are a sum of your parts, a sum of your experiences. And you may find a moment in time where everything that brought you here makes you uniquely qualified to rise to the occasion. So all of the things that I had done leading up to March 2020 put me in this situation where, okay, I had been teaching these skills that became mission critical to a small subset of people, but now they have absolutely broad application. And I knew that I was in a position to help a lot of people to be able to navigate this better, which was, really such an amazing thing that occurred. But here's the thing, you have to be willing to rise to the challenge. So, 2020 for me and for my team was exhausting and also exhilarating. Basically we worked nonstop. And it was so funny because I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I had one company reach out to me and they said, hey, can you train like 800 people? And I'm like, that's a lot of workshops. And so we figured out how to scale, by using various, technology tools. We created Speaker Dynamics University to be able to teach these skills at scale. But I also scheduled myself all the way through to December 23rd. And so remember, this is middle of March when they reached out, because honestly, I thought, well, this is the only client I'll have, and this is fine. I'll just devote all my time to them. Okay, well, that was wrong. I had lots of people come to me and ask for help, so it was a very exhausting year with many, many hours. But boy, what a blessing to be in a position where I truly could, I think, make a difference for a lot of people who are struggling. So, it also became a year where I wrote book number 2 with Dr. Allen, and then book 3 and 4 quickly followed the following 2 years. So, I didn't realize at this time just, how what I had done thus far would actually lead me to have a greater impact than I ever envisioned. So you might be wondering, why am I sharing these stories other than to just sit back and think, wow, what an interesting career path I've had? The reason why I'm sharing it is actually it's actually this week's big takeaway. So, often we don't have the opportunity to reflect on our own milestones and consider how they've impacted our life's trajectory. It's easy to just kind of stay heads down and get lost in the minutia of the day to day. I certainly do that. But if we don't take the time to reflect, we may miss out on the lessons that we learned along the way, and we may miss out on the opportunities to hit other milestones in the future. So my hope is that through this episode that has inspired you to look back on the milestones that you've hit, and also seek to create new milestones in the future. Maybe you target one that you would like to achieve in 2025. So thank you so much for listening to some of my communication milestones that have occurred over the past couple decades for me. And I would encourage you to think back on some of yours. If you would like to check out a picture of my first communication milestone, that is actually part of our bonus content this week. So if you would like to see a very cheesy smile on my face with me gripping my Emmy award, you can check it out. I have a picture from way back. It's in black and white. So it wasn't quite that long ago, but it is in black and white. So you can check it out by going to speakerdynamics.com/bonus content. Once again, it's speakerdynamics.com/bonus content. And you can see a visual representation of my first major communication milestone. As mentioned, this podcast has grown much larger than I ever anticipated that it would when I started this about a year ago. And we would love to see it continue to grow. So there's a lot of noise in the marketplace. There's a lot of noise in the communication podcast space. So you can help others find us by giving us a like or subscribing anywhere that you get your podcasts. But I want to thank you so much for listening to this particular episode. Until next time, everybody.